Hello viewers, we hope that your CAT preparation is coming along nicely. Now we thought that we will just try to figure out if you are ready for the CAT. So we got a nice quiz for you of the QA edition when it comes to being CAT ready. So what is going to happen in this particular quiz? First of all, there are 10 questions that are there. You are supposed to pause these questions and solve each and every question. Now, ideally, the time recommended is 20 minutes to finish this entire quiz of 10 questions. So plan accordingly. Have a piece of paper and a pen with you so that you can do your working as you progress. Now, these questions will progressively become difficult. So make sure that you are spending as less time as is possible on the previous few questions and you are having more time to spend on the later questions. The ideal time, as I mentioned, is 20 minutes. I don't have a timer for this because then the video will go on for a long time, but I will stay on each question for 15 seconds. You can pause the video, try out the answer to that question, and then you can move ahead. All the answers will be available at the end. You can use the calculator in the middle of the test. So you can sit with your phone calculator or something. Do not Google the questions or try to game the system and try to find the answers. And at the end of it all, after I have shared the keys and the comments to each and every question, I will share the percentile predictor at the end as well. So depending on the number of points that you are scoring, you will be given a percentile, which could be your benchmark when it comes to the CAT. To start with the first question, what I have done is I will start the slideshow. Each slide will go on for 15 seconds. And you can just have a look at the question, pause the video, try to solve it on your own and let the entire 10 question slideshow run on its own. So the slideshow is coming up in 3, 2 and 1. Now that you are done with the entire test, what you should be doing now is looking at the answer key, and I'll be commenting on each question. I'll not solve the question, but I'll just tell you what all things did you need to keep in mind when it came to solving these questions and why did they were considered to be difficult. You have to give yourself a score of 1 point for the corresponding level. So if a question corresponds to level 1, then you are supposed to give it 1 point. Level 2 will be 2 points and so on till the time you reach level 10, which is considered to be a 10 pointer. Also, I hope all of you have taken less than 20 minutes to go through this entire 10 question journey. So make sure that you are rewarding yourself accordingly. If you took more than 20 minutes to solve this, then you will deserve fewer points. So whatever you could manage in 20 minutes, you will have to give yourself points for only those questions. Now to start with the solution key, the first question was 8 plus 12 equals 2, 7 plus 14 equals 3, then 10 plus 18 equals what? And I'm sure a lot of you would have got the answer to this question, and the answer to this question is option A, that is 10. Now moving on to the next question. This was a fairly easy question to start with. Starting with the second question, the complexity increases by a bit. Now instead of having just numbers, you also have some words that have been given to you, but most of these words will mean nothing. So the answer to this question, wherein a box contains 6 red balls and you have to figure out the probability that the red ball selected is the smallest red ball rather, because each ball is of a different size, is going to be, I'm sure a lot of you would have got this one right as well, option C, that is 1 by 6. Coming to level 3. Now we are talking about positive integers. So there is more complexity involved. There are cases that are there. PQ is equal to 64. Which of the following cannot be the value of P plus Q? And P and Q are positive integers. You had to think about the various cases that existed. So if you knew that 16 4s are 64, 8 8s are 64, 64 1s are 64, you should have been able to get the answer to this question, which is option D, that is 35. Going to the fourth level, P, Q, R are 3 consecutive odd numbers now. So we are also talking about odd numbers, consecutive numbers. Value of 3 times P is 3 less than 2 times R. Now some of you might have used equations to solve this. Some of you might have used options to solve this. Options would definitely be a better way to solve this, because you are trying to figure out if 7 is the largest odd number in this sequence, then what could be the smallest odd number in this sequence, and so on and so forth. So the answer to this question is going to be option C, that is 9. Moving on to level 5. Let D be a recurring decimal of the form D equals 0.A1, A2, A1, A2, A1, A2 and so on. And this basically is where your shortcuts will come into the play. If someone knows the shortcut, great, you will be able to answer this question. But even if you didn't know this particular shortcut, you could have taken some number, tried to use your calculator and figure out which option when multiplied by your decimal number will give you a closed integer or an integer on its own. So the answer to this question is going to be option C, that is 198. Moving on to the next question, level 6. Now things become slightly complicated. Now we are at geometry. This is one of my personal favorite questions that we have here. Euclid has a triangle in mind, longest side is so on and so forth. The other side is 10, area is 80, and we have to find the exact length of its third side. There are 2 broad ways of solving this. One, you figure out what the third side is using the Heron's formula. So root of S into S minus A into S minus B into S minus C, where S is the semi-perimeter. You can assume the third side as X, and you will be able to get the answer to this question by solving the equation when you equate it to the area, that is 80 square units. The other smarter way of solving this, and here is where you will start thinking along those lines, is going to be, if you assume the base to be 20, and the height of the triangle can then be found out, and then you know that there is one side that exists, there is the height that is there, it is a right angle triangle. You will find the third side, that will give you the third side or the second side of the other right angle triangle, and you will be able to figure out the answer to this question. So that is a smarter way of solving this. The correct answer to this question is option A, that is root of 260. Coming to level 7. Now we are talking about division, factors, some bit of algebra and so on. Still not a very difficult question, but the wording becomes slightly complicated. So let A be the largest positive integer, 3 raised to k, 4 raised to k, 5 raised to k divides this particular number. B be the largest positive integer that divides another large number that we have, where k is any positive integer. We have to find the value of A plus B. Now, if you know how to remove factors, how exactly to plug in values and check what happens, you should be done with this. So the easiest way of solving this, for those of you who are not aware of how to take out common factors and how to manipulate the things inside the bracket, you could have simply put k equals 1, k equals 2 or k equals 3 and so on, and you could have found out what exactly is the value. And after 2 or 3 iterations, you could have figured out that there is some logic that exists to the sequence. You should have got the value of A as 2, the value of B as 80, and the correct answer would be 82 here. Moving on to level 8, now things become even more complicated. There is a big story that is involved. A wholesaler bought walnuts and peanuts and so on and so forth. And then there is something that is being lost, something that is being sold at some profit. You have to do some calculation and figure out at what price did the wholesaler buy the walnuts. Now you have to understand at what price did the wholesaler buy the walnuts, and whatever has been lost is the shopkeeper. So the wholesaler and the shopkeeper are two different entities. You have to understand that the shopkeeper is losing something, and because of that the shopkeeper has to compromise and sell something at 166 rupees per kg, which will still give him an overall profit of 25%. And from there you have to work backwards and figure out what the wholesaler would have done. The correct answer here is option 3, that is 96 for this particular question, and this is indeed a tough one. So now you will see that the level of difficulty has grown almost exponentially from levels 5 and 6 to 7. Moving to level 9. If x is a positive real number and it looks like an innocuous, harmless question, x raised to 8 plus 1 by x raised to 8 is 47. You have to figure out what is x raised to 9 plus 1 by x raised to 9, but it is extremely complicated. You will have to go from x raised to 8 plus 1 by x raised to 8 to x raised to 4 plus 1 by x raised to 4 to x square plus 1 by x square to x plus 1 by x to x plus 1 or x cube plus 1 by x cube to x raised to 9 plus 1 by x raised to 9. You will have to go through all these steps to reach this particular answer. It is mostly going to take you somewhere around 3 to 3.5 minutes to crack this question, especially if you have not seen this earlier. And that is the beauty of this question. It looks extremely straightforward, but is a difficult question. Moving on to level 9, this innocuous looking question is a nightmare in itself. If x is a positive real number and x raised to 8 plus 1 by x raised to 8 is 47, you have to find x raised to 9 plus 1 by x raised to 9. It's so simple, right? You just have to figure out what happens when the power is increased by 1. But it is not the case. For those of you who solved this, you would have realized that you had to go from x raised to 8 plus 1 by x raised to 8 to x raised to 4 plus 1 by x raised to 4 to x square plus 1 by x square to x plus 1 by x to x cubed plus 1 by x cubed plus x raised to 9 plus 1 by x raised to 9. It was a mechanical sum. You had to just plug in the values and keep on doing it till the time you reached x raised to 9 plus 1 by x raised to 9. But it should have definitely taken you north of 3 minutes to solve this particular question, especially if you are seeing something like this for the first time. It's not uncrackable, but this is definitely a difficult question. Again, a notch above where we were in terms of level 7 and level 8. So the correct answer to this question is option A, 34 times root of 5. That is going to be the answer to this one. Now moving on to the last level that we had, level 10, and this is where things become complicated. Let n be any natural number such that 5 raised to n minus 1 is less than 3 raised to n plus 1. Then the least integer value of m that satisfies 3 raised to n plus 1 less than 2 raised to n plus m for each such n is what? And this is very complicated, not because there is a lot of formula that there is a novel formula that you need to apply here, but because you have to sit and do all these steps that are there. You have to figure out, let n be any natural number where this exists. So what all are the natural numbers for which this will hold true? You will have to plug in n equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. And there is a spoiler there. There is a place wherein you will be able to negate the inequality. Or in that case, you have to figure out what is the value of n, or what are the values of n for which this inequality is viable, and then you have to figure out what happens for each of these n's and what is the corresponding value of m that exists. And at the end of it, you will be able to figure out what the least integer value of m that satisfies this for each such n. And the answer to this beautifully designed question is 5. As simple as that. You have to just plug in the values and try to figure out where you will stop in terms of n, and then you have to plug in the values of n, figure out the corresponding values of m, and you should be fine in this particular context. Now coming to the scoring of this particular test. These are the scores and the percentile that you will roughly correspond to considering your CAT preparation. So if you scored less than 10 points, which means that you were not able to answer even the first 4 questions correctly, then you are at a 60th percentile level. You will have to put in a lot of effort to go to that level wherein you can maybe clear the sectional cutoffs at the very least and stand a chance of getting into the top B schools of the country. If you are between 10 to 19 points, 19 on the higher side, it basically means that you would have been able to solve roughly 5 to 6 6 questions. Based on my experience, you should be at an 80th percentile if you are at this level. If you have crossed 20 points but you are short of 30 points, you should be comfortably at a 90th percentile level. If you are between 30 to 34 points, just short of 35, you should be at a 95th percentile level. And if you are at a 35 to 40 percentile level or a 35 to 40 points level, you should be at a 99th percentile. And for those of you who got 55 on 55, you will mostly get 100 percentile at the CAT if you manage to maintain your focus, concentration, and you are at in your best shape when it comes to the day of the CAT. I hope you had fun solving this small exercise. I hope you now know better where you are in terms of a CAT preparation and you can plan your CAT preparation accordingly. If you like this video, do consider giving us a thumbs up. Do stay subscribed to the channel and make sure that you turn on the notifications, because then you will be notified of each and every video that we put up on a regular basis. If you like the content that we're putting up on the channel, do share it with your friends as well, so that together we can reach out to as many aspirants as possible and can benefit their CAT preparation in a much more positive manner.